have a lot of things today. Okay. Oh, good, thanks. Mm-hmm. Right, okay. Right, yes. Right, that's fine. We just can't get mad. Right, yeah. Do you want to start? Okay. In the middle of her prayer? Okay. Okay. All right. What I'll do is I'll turn that off. Cover it, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Cover it and then Can we just do the fake camera? Okay. Right. Should I do that for any challenge? Oh, it's a short. Oh, okay, great. All right, great. Okay. Good morning. Would you please rise and turn to 100 to sing our spirit music, Peace Like a River.
Soul. Good morning. As we light our chalice this morning, I want to share the words of George K. Beach. Everything begins on the verge of awareness. The dawn is not, and then is. Sleep is not, and then is. In between is an awakening. The passage of thin light between breaks open the day. The passage of thin sound between flows into the day. Too soon the numbing rumble of traffic swells, the day glares. Let the soft haze hang again across the row of morning. Wait upon the narrow moment, the first awareness of being in between. Live days and seasons on the thin edge of dawn, in praise that every single thing begins now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington. My name is Kelly Petrie, and I am the chair of the RE committee. As Maggie announced last week, we are always looking for friendly visitors to come help out, to come hang out with these wonderful children. It really is a lot of fun, and we would love your help in growing the program. Moving on, our minister, I'm so short, wow, okay, sorry. Our minister, Reverend Leonetta, is out of the pulpit today, but we have a lovely guest speaker, Reverend Cassandra Hartley, and I will tell you about her a little bit more in a minute. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. Please join us for coffee and bagels after and conversation downstairs. A member of the membership committee would love to talk to you if you have any questions. Do we have any visitors today? If anybody's brave, yay, hello, welcome. Come on, don't come out, you don't have to come up, just stand up. And if you would, please introduce yourselves. We'd like to meet you.
My name is Mary. And Mike's next.
Excellent, sorry, how did you hear about us?
Google.
Yay, all right, one for Google. Excellent. Thank you. Well, we look forward to meeting you afterwards. Thank you. We are happy to meet you. I said that. Okay. During the service, we have supervised nursery for babies and toddlers and religious education classes for children and youth. Please see the beautiful Miss Natalie Case for more questions. There are 2 locations that we broadcast the service should you need to leave for any reason, a tickle in your throat or whatever. And they are downstairs, and our lovely ushers can point you to those locations. We welcome all humans, regardless of race, sexual orientation, belief system, age, even the small children that are fidgety and make noise, and the adults that are fidgety and make noise. These are humans and our future, and we welcome them while they are in the meeting house. We do have a few announcements today. Please check your order of service to find out how to be a volunteer at Gleaners for the Social Justice Committee. Hopefully I said everything I need to say about that. Also, February 25th, after the service, there is a chili cook-off. If you think you have what it takes to wow us with your chili, please come and wow us with your chili. It is free to make chili and feed us, to be a part of the competition. To submit, that's the word I was looking for there. This is a fundraiser, though, for the RE, so we will be selling tickets, and I believe our little munchkins will maybe be making some cornbread or something like that, and selling that to you as well. And it'll be a lovely time for us all to gather together, and did I say everything I need to say about that? Probably not. Check the magnet about that. Okay, and then Sarah has an announcement that she would like to say about Freedom House. Huh? Sure, this microphone is good too.
Hello, it's good to be back in this space again, and I'm here because I want your money and your stuff. Some of you are on a Facebook page called Save the World Farmington. A few of you are familiar with that. And it's a place that we've been meeting every couple of Sundays to kind of try to save the world. It keeps going till we fix it, sort of thing. But one project, we're doing 2 projects right now for Freedom House, which is a place for asylum in Detroit. And if you don't know much about it, Google it, look it up, see what you can find out. But what we're doing right now are trying to make people more comfortable and more welcome. One thing we're doing is we're trying to raise money to buy 40 boxes that will go under their beds. People in Freedom House are living 6 or more to a very small room. It used to be a convent, so picture that size. So they're in bunk beds. You need a place to put stuff. So we're asking for donations. You can give me cash, you can write a check, there's a way to pay online. If you'd like to donate $20 or whatever you want towards one of those boxes. We're around 28 boxes so far, so we're getting to our goal of 40. But the other thing Freedom House needs is help getting people into apartments. Once they've received work papers, once they've got all the documents they need in place, Freedom House puts people into an apartment or a duplex in this case, or some other sort of home that's more permanent housing. But these are people who haven't started to work yet and they don't have stuff. And so our job is to supply them with stuff. And in this case, that is an apartment furnished for a family of 4. We've got 2 young kids and 2 adults, and it is a duplex that we're moving them into. And so we don't have a move-in date set. That'll be in mid to late March, depending on how donations are coming in. But what we really need are things like, I think we need lamps, for example, right now on the list. We need a set of dishes, glasses, mugs, kitchen towels. I've put together a list online at the Save the World Facebook page if you're on that. If you're not sure about that, just reach out to me after the service. I'll help you navigate to what we need and all of that. But not only do we gather things, we move people in. And this is the awesome part. The best part is going and helping a family move into their own place. I don't know if there's anyone here who participated with that, I think last time, but it is a fabulous feeling to wash the shelves in their kitchen and fill them with dishes and stuff like that. It's just it's a good thing to do. So contact me, find me, I'll stick around at coffee hour if you have any questions. If you want to throw money my way, I can make things happen too. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Would you please all turn to your litany of gathering, please, on page 3. This is our sacred time and space to renew our spirits, to explore the mystery, and to share our joys and sorrows. With you, I find strength. With me, you can share your deepest self. Together we learn to understand and to forgive. We share our triumphs. And they inspire. We share our failures. And we share our humiliation. We share our joy. And it multiplies. We share our sorrow. And it begins to lessen. If anyone would like to come forward and share a joy or sorrow, we would love to hear that.
Hi, my name is Betty, and I feel like a 6-year-old kid using some funny language here. I lived in a condo for 20 years, and for the first time, one of my toilets overflowed. That is not a good thing. And so I want to warn all of you, if you, like me, might have a bathroom with a toilet that you don't use often, you should flush the toilet. The water evaporates. So to save yourself the plumber, the repainting of the ceiling, and all sorts of anxiety, flush. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeannie. I haven't been here in a really long time. And I have a big joy. That guy over there, Mark, I will have been married to for 25 years this May, but we are going to take our little anniversary trip in 10 days, and we're going to go to Cuba. So that has been on my bucket list, to go to Havana, drive around in a pink Cadillac, and look at all the cool architecture. I've wanted to go there for so long. I'm so excited. So that's my 2 joys.
Hi, Julie Adis from Vice President of Administration. So every Sunday after the service, we get to go downstairs and drink coffee and bagels, and we're able to do that because of our hospitality server, B, who's in the back. Come on, B, come up here. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to thank her for coming every Sunday despite the weather, and having our coffee brewed and our bagel sliced. And we just want to tell her how much we appreciate her for doing that, and we thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Here's a...
Thank you, honey.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul Denowitz, and I'd just like to thank Gail and Mario. Last night we had the Italian dinner auction, and it was spectacular. So if they certainly are gracious enough to do it again next year, be sure to bid, because it was just outstanding. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I just this morning was thinking on my way to work of the little, like trying to remember the little tiny things that give me joy. Things like 5 minutes after I turn my car on, it's actually warm. That's amazing. Things like I stopped by to get coffee this morning and I asked for a water. Instead of getting the small one, they gave me the big one. Things like I sat down in my office and looked out the window and the snow-covered trees were just gorgeous. Things like it's snowing outside and we're freezing and it's cold and it's the middle of winter, but we're all here. And that's how badly we want to be together. So I'm thankful for all of those things.
I haven't been up here in ages. Linda Rourke. Sad news, longtime member Sherry Underwood lost her mother yesterday to a stroke. The good news is that her mom was not sick. She wasn't having any medical problems. She was living actually with Sherry, and they were doing quite well. But she did have a stroke and was in the hospital, didn't live very long after they removed the oxygen. So there will probably be more details following. I believe there is a memorial service on Wednesday.
Thank you so much. Now let us all read together the unison words of offering, please. Page 4. We give generously to support this church where love, justice, and equality inspire our acts of service and compassion. We dedicate these gifts to all that we stand for within the Unitarian Universalist tradition. And if you are our guest today, you are our guest. I don't know what I'm supposed to say there. Don't feel you have to give anything.
Seed who knows a lot about how hard change is. And sometimes technology is hard too. Oh, okay, it was. Let's see. Well, you can just imagine the sunflower. I'll hold up the picture so you can at least get a sense. I am a bad seed. A bad seed. Oh yeah, it's true. The other seeds, they look at me and they say, that seed is so bad. When they think I'm not listening, they mumble, there goes that bad seed. But I can hear them. I have good hearing for a seed. How bad am I? You really want to know? Well, I never put things back where they belong. I'm late to everything. I tell long jokes with no punchlines. I never wash my hands or my feet. I lie about pointless stuff. I cut in line every time. I stare at everybody. I glare at everybody. I finish everybody's sentences, and I never listen. And I do all kinds of other bad things, too. Know why? 'Cause I'm a bad seed. A bad seed. I just can't help it. Sure, I wasn't always this bad. I was born a humble seed on a simple sunflower in an unremarkable field. I had a big family. Seeds were everywhere. We found ways of having fun. We were close. But then the petals dropped and our flower drooped. After that, it's kind of a blur. There was a farmer, and I remember a bag, and then everything went dark. And then a giant. I thought I was a goner. I thought I was done for. I screamed and I hollered, ah! But I was spit out at the last possible second. I flew through the air and I landed under the bleachers with a huge thud. When I woke up, it was dark outside. A wad of gum had softened my fall. I felt okay, but something had changed within me. I'd become a different seed entirely. I'd become a bad seed. A bad seed. That's right. I stopped smiling. I kept to myself. I drifted. I was friend to nobody and bad to everybody. I was lost on purpose. I lived in a soda can. I didn't care, and it suited me. That is, until recently. I've made a big decision. I've decided I don't want to be a bad seed anymore. I'm ready to be happy. It's hard to be good when you're so used to being bad, but I'm trying. I'm taking it one day at a time. Sure, I still forget to listen, and I still show up late, and I still talk during the movies, and I do all kinds of other bad things too. But I also say thank you, and I say please, and I smile, and I hold the doors open for people. Not always, but sometimes. And even though I still feel bad sometimes, I also feel kind of good. It's sort of a mix. All I can do is keep trying and keep thinking, maybe I'm not such a bad seed after all. Hey, look, there goes that bad seed. Actually, he's not that bad anymore. I heard that. The end. Thank you guys for being such great listeners.
Dexter, do you want to come light the chalice? Yeah. All right, and let's all sing our children off to R.E.
I have a friend who is a therapist. She's a warm, compassionate woman with a true gift for helping people. She's also an avid runner. So one day we were talking about people's ability to make changes in their lives, and she said, I just don't get it sometimes. My clients keep saying that they want to start exercising more, and so I say, great, go do that. I don't understand why they don't just do that. I don't remember what my exact response was, but I'm pretty sure I had to pick my jaw up off the floor first, because I do understand why they don't just do that. I have resolved to start a daily yoga practice every January for so many years that I've lost count. And every year I put it back on my list with a mixture of longing and determination and guilt. And by February, I've given up. There are times I think that I should just adopt the philosophy of the writer Aleister Crowley, who once said, "May the new year bring you courage to break your resolutions early." My own plan is to swear off every kind of virtue so that I triumph even when I fail. On a side note, Crowley was actually dubbed the wickedest man in the world during his time, so his plan worked out pretty well. As much as I know from experience that change is hard, and as tempting as it is to adopt Crowley's forget it mentality, still my deepest belief is that change is possible. I've spent my entire life searching for the answer to the question, what makes change possible? Mostly because I've watched the people I love the most suffer in a prison of their own making. Whether it was my mom carrying on the tradition of constant criticism that her mom and grandmother passed down, or my best friend lost to accidental drug overdose, or a beloved relative who has packed every room in her house to the ceiling with things, but she can't let anything go. In my quest to understand how people are able to change, the most painful and yet most important lesson I've learned is that we can't make people change. We can only change ourselves and offer support to others. We've all heard this a million times, of course, but it doesn't make it any easier when someone we fiercely love is at stake. When it comes to changing ourselves, thankfully there are many sources of hope. One source of hope for me is that we're starting to question the concept of willpower. For so long, we've lived with this idea that making the right choice is just a matter of strength and determination. So if you eat that cookie, or you smoke that cigarette, or you lose your temper with your kids again, you're just not strong enough. So now on top of making a hurtful choice, you get to beat yourself up for being weak. But thanks to an explosion of scientific research, we're learning that traditional notions of willpower don't actually hold true. In fact, what we struggle with and our ability to change it is impacted by a complex combination of factors such as genetics, health, upbringing, our physical environment, social support, culture, and even our language. Just a quick look at the self-help aisle of a bookstore or the titles of TED Talks can give you a sense of all the new tricks and tips and insights we have thanks to all this great research. For instance, researchers are finding that it's actually not effective to focus on making one big change. Instead, it's better to start with smaller, easier changes and then work your way up. You're basically training yourself to trust yourself, which turns out to be more powerful than just strength of mind. All this new insight is exciting, of course, but it isn't the whole story. There are times for many of us when no matter how much support and how many resources we have, we just can't seem to make a change that we desperately want to make. This is when a concept called radical acceptance might help. Radical acceptance is a term coined by the psychologist and meditation teacher Tara Brach. She defines it as clearly recognizing what's happening inside of us and regarding what we see with an open, loving heart. It's based on the Buddhist idea that insight and compassion are like two wings of a bird. We need both in order to fly. The influential psychologist Carl Rogers promoted a similar idea during his lifetime. He once said, "Over the years, I've learned to become more adequate in listening to myself, so that I know, at least somewhat more than I used to, what I'm feeling in any given moment." One way of putting this is that I feel I have become more adequate in letting myself be what I am. It becomes easier for me to accept myself as a decidedly imperfect person. This must seem like a very strange direction in which to move, but it has value to me because the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. So how do we accept ourselves in a way that allows us to change? Let's look first at the wing of insight. We can cultivate insight by simply pausing and reflecting on what's happening, what we're feeling inside of us at any given moment. And ideally, this pause would come in the midst of a hard situation by taking a few deep breaths and taking some time to think. But more often than not, it means reflecting back on a situation after it's already happened. And no matter when we do it, it's important to adopt an attitude of gentle inquiry. So instead of saying to ourselves, "Why the insert favorite expletive, did I just do that again?" we can say something like, "That was a hard situation. I wonder what feeling most needed my attention at that moment. What need was I trying to meet? What could I do differently next time?" The more we understand how our thoughts and feelings and needs and beliefs are impacting us, the better we are at moving past them. Even just the act of naming our struggle can often help loosen its grip on us. Of course, facing our struggle squarely and then looking within ourselves isn't always easy, and that's probably why it's a common theme in literature and spiritual texts. Jacob wrestles all night with God in the form of a stranger. Jesus spends 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness facing the devil. The Buddha is put to the test by Mara as he sits under the Bodhi tree. Neville Longbottom must choose between loyalty and power in the final battle. These stories remind us again and again that we can't triumph unless we're willing to dig deep within ourselves first. Luckily, most of us don't have to face off with a literal devil, but sometimes we're afraid to go under the surface of our lives because we think we might meet a different kind of demon. Demons in the form of feelings like shame or unworthiness that feel like they could literally tear us apart. And it's true that if we're struggling with trauma or depression or anxiety, we have to move carefully and slowly and use the help of professionals so that we don't do more harm. But when we can come face to face with what's happening inside of us, not only do we realize that we can survive it, we're also given a special gift. It's the gift of knowing that we are not our thoughts and feelings. We often can't control what rises up inside of us, so instead of wasting energy trying to fight against it, we can practice just noticing our reactions and then letting them pass through. Without the internal fight that shuts us down, we suddenly have the emotional and mental energy we need to learn new ways of responding. To give you a sense of what I mean, I want to pause here for a guided meditation. And I know that guided meditations aren't for all people at all times, so if you need to do something different with this time, take care of what you need most. But for all of us, let's just take a moment to get comfortable in our seats. You can stand up and stretch for a second if you need to. Just kind of find a way to settle down into your space. I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze and take some deep breaths. Now bring to mind a situation in your life where you want to make a change, but you're struggling. And if nothing comes to mind, just pick any situation that's causing a negative reaction. Please don't pick something that's traumatic or too overwhelming, because you want to be able to be present with it so you can work with it. As you bring the situation to mind, notice what feelings are coming up. What is it about this situation that provokes the strongest feelings? You might see a particular scene in your mind, or hear words that are spoken, or recognize a belief you hold about how this situation reflects on you. Try to notice how your feelings are affecting your body. How do your muscles feel? What are the sensations in your stomach or your throat? Now that we're in touch with this struggle, let's first experiment with what it feels like to resist it. As you continue to reflect on your experience, mentally direct a stream of no at the feelings. Let the word carry the full energy of no, rejecting, pushing away what you are experiencing. What happens to the feelings as you say no? How does your body react to no? Now let's take a deep breath and relax through our body. Try to release muscles and tension. Adjust the way you're sitting if you need to. And let's try something different now. Bring the situation to mind again, along with all the feelings, but this time direct a stream of yes at it. Yes to the struggle. Yes to the part of us that wants the struggle to go away. Let your thoughts and feelings float held in this yes. If there are waves of no, fear or anger that arise from the situation or even from doing the exercise, just let it be okay. Let these reactions be received in a larger field of yes. As you continue to release your thoughts and feelings into the yes, notice what's happening in your body. Is there any softening or opening? Let us sit for a couple of more breaths, and let our thoughts just be released into a relaxed awareness. Let our intention be to say a gentle yes to whatever arises. As we return from the silence, let's remain seated. Slowly begin to open your eyes and come back to the space. But I invite you to turn to your hymnal, number 352, Find a Stillness, and we'll let this song be a continuation of our meditation. The Buddha once asked a student, "If a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful?" The student replied, "It is." The Buddha then asked, "If the person is struck by a second arrow, is that even more painful?" The student replied again, "It is." The Buddha explained, "In life, we cannot always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first, and with the second arrow comes the possibility of choice." In her book, True Refuge, Brock uses this story to illustrate why we need the wing of self-compassion when we practice radical acceptance. She writes, "The first arrow is our human conditioning to cling to comfort and pleasure and react with anger or fear to unpleasant experiences. It's humbling to discover that willpower is often no match for these primal energies. We believe we should be able to control our emotions, and then they just storm in and possess our psyches. The second, more painful arrow is our reaction to these quote-unquote failures. Sometimes our self-aversion is subtle. We're not aware of how it undermines us. Yet often it's not. We hate ourselves for the way we get insecure and flustered, for being fatigued and unproductive, for our addiction to alcohol or other substances. Rather than attending to the difficult emotions underlying the first arrow, we shoot ourselves with the second arrow of self-blame. Many of us are well acquainted with the pain of that second arrow. We walk around with a voice in our heads that is constantly judging our every action. For some of us, this voice is quiet, maybe nagging. For others, it's loud and cruel. We might find countless ways to numb out or distract ourselves so that the voice will stay in the background, but it's still there, chattering away. Practicing self-compassion is a way of countering that critical voice with a different, kinder one. The self-compassion researcher, and yes, that is an actual title, Kristen Neff, describes it as learning to treat ourselves the way we would treat a beloved friend. It's a simple concept, but it's not easy. When some people learn about the practice, they respond that they don't need it because they don't have a cruel inner voice. In fact, they have the opposite problem. They're filled with feelings secretly of superiority or pride. But excessive pride and self-aversion are actually two sides of the same coin. Both of them come from a feeling that we can't trust our inner goodness. This is because pride is often built not on inherent worthiness, but on things that are temporary. Our looks, our possessions, our success, even our physical and mental abilities, which can be taken away with illness or age. If the things we built our sense of superiority on could crumble underneath us, then we have to, as the author Brené Brown puts it, constantly hustle for our worthiness. Another reason people resist the practice of self-compassion is because our culture tells us that we have to be hard on ourselves to change. After all, if we're practicing self-compassion, aren't we basically just letting ourselves off the hook or allowing our problems to continue? On the surface, this makes sense, but the reality is that if being hard on ourselves didn't work the first time, doing more of it is not going to do any better. Self-compassion breaks the cycle of mistake, shame, more mistakes, more shame. It frees us so that we can take responsibility for our past and learn to respond differently in the future. Excuse me. I know when I first learned about the practice of self-compassion, I was incredibly resistant to it. I figured it couldn't be applicable to me because I wasn't prideful, but I also didn't have a bad self-esteem. And besides, I was pretty sure that I needed to push myself to make myself better. Then I went through what we often call a dark night of the soul. I was deeply grieving the past and overwhelmed with anxiety about the future. I couldn't eat without feeling sick to my stomach. I was bursting into tears constantly. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, already mid-panic attack. Many of my friends were giving me advice like, just stay positive and it will all work out. Or they wanted to talk me out of my thoughts and feelings. It felt like I was coming apart at the seams. And on top of everything else, I was mad at myself for not just getting it together. Then one day, my therapist listened to me explain what was going on, and she said, I want you to imagine that the part of you that's feeling grief and anxiety is driving a bus. You're already afraid she's going to crash the bus, so don't yell at her or try to yank her out of the seat. Instead, try speaking calmly and compassionately to her. Tell her that you hear her, you understand her fears, and you know she wants to do what's best. Tell her you will keep listening to her, but for now she needs to stop and rest. You will drive for her. You will take care of her. This mental exercise was strange, to say the least, but the moment I tried it, my eyes welled up with tears. Treating my fear and pain with such tenderness cracked something wide open. In this place of spaciousness, I could move through my feelings instead of sinking down into them. I finally got it. When we practice self-compassion, we're throwing ourselves a life preserver, but we're also helping those around us. The more compassion we feel for ourselves, the easier it is to feel compassion for others. And we avoid the trap of becoming self-loathing and then turning that outward against others. We see the dire consequences of pain turned outward every day in the news. For example, most perpetrators of mass shootings have a long history of struggling with self-loathing. We can also probably think of more than a few public figures who are dealing with their self-loathing by grabbing for power or attention. Unfortunately, our world is full of reactivity, full of people who act from a place of pain and fear, which only perpetuates cycles of violence and abuse. But we can make a different choice. We can choose the freedom that comes with practicing the wings of insight and self-compassion. We don't have to wait until January 1st to get a fresh start. Every moment is an opportunity to pause, notice what's happening inside us, and treat what we see with a tenderness that can be healing. Every moment is another chance to take a tiny step forward toward the life we truly want to lead. We will still mess up most of the time. Sometimes it will even feel like we're taking giant leaps backward instead of a tiny step forward. But there's always hope, because underneath it all, we are ultimately sacred and worthy and whole. The Indian master Bapuji urges us to remember this truth. He writes, "My beloved child, break your heart no longer. Each time you judge yourself, you break your own heart. You stop feeding on the love which is the wellspring of your vitality. The time has come, your time, to live, to celebrate. Let no one thing, no idea or ideal obstruct you. If one comes, even in the name of truth, forgive it for its unknowing. Do not fight. Let go. Breathe into the goodness that you are." May it be so. As we close this morning, I invite you to turn to your teal hymnal for the song Filled with Loving Kindness. And I invite you to stand, and if Diana will play it one time through since it's a less familiar hymn, so that will give us a sense of the song. But I also invite you, if you feel comfortable, to place your hand on your heart for the first verse as a way to offer yourself the words as a gift of love. As we go forth, let us remember that blessed is the path of transformation on which you travel. Blessed is your heart that heard the call. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become along the way. May we go forth in peace and rest in love until we gather again. Amen.
Well, that would be interesting because he would kind of give an idea of his artistic process. video. They had something at the DIA and they showed the chair that he sat. He wouldn't use it really like this. He had this chair. And it was like super low. This guy was tall. But I mean, it was a really old, worn out seat. And he wouldn't use anything else. He had to use that. Right. Oh, right, the wool over. So maybe you should. Have you ever seen the movie? It's a documentary kind of movie, but it was really, it was interesting. If you ever get a chance, you probably like it.